Roblox games and Roblox horror are very often not the best. Countless videos have been made putting the genre in a less than favorable light, and they make pretty justified points. Roblox is, at its core, a kids platform, and it's pretty hard to make a game that's scary when you have a Lego aesthetic, and, most importantly, without breaking guidelines. So, the common place for many of these games are one of two paths: pandering to children or being purely aesthetical, essentially boiling down to walking simulators with ambience and custom models. And while it's harmless, it's very throwaway. However, there are some gems hidden which have gameplay and narratives that are genuinely interesting. And one of these is the recent Scotomaphobia. Scotomaphobia was released on November 26 of 2022 and has amassed over 500,000 visits in its relatively short time on the platform. Created by Trombone on a Desk, or Toad, with additional help from DavidCode29, the game has a humble about page. All the description has is the phrase, "Delve deeper. There's no other choice." And loading in, we're met with an equally docile environment, with a calming but somewhat off-putting scene. The map around us is a baseplate derivative of early Roblox games, being amateuristic and basic. The amateurish placement of everything is probably done to convey a feeling of naivety. In front of us is a road straight forward, and a grassy hillscape is blanketed in fog. Exploring forward, we can find a mine interest boarded up, so we look around for other points of interest, and because the map is so small, all 3 points can be found pretty quickly: a house, a broken bridge, and a graveyard. On the bridge, we can find a trowel with a note next to it saying, "It's a selection process. Regardless of age, everyone has a chance of being sent. One in my group is in a wheelchair, and the other deaf in both ears. All sick, all inflicted, numbers on our backs." In the distance, you can see the other side of the bridge, with someone or something on it. Going back to the note, if you have a custom character, you'd probably not notice, but there's a number on your back. This number actually directly correlates to your Roblox account, being the suffix at the end of your profile page's URL. But story-wise, it means that we didn't come here on our own accord. We were essentially drafted. After grabbing the shovel, we head over to the graveyard. However, it's not obvious what needs to be dug up. Looking at the statue, we can read a note stuck to the back. The key is buried with the artist. With nowhere else to go, we go to the last place, a cabin on the hill. Down below the house, another note can be found. Air up here makes me lightheaded. I worry if we stay up here too long, it will run dry. So we set out, light in hand. The people who were sent here, who are inflicted with some illness, are forced into the mine. And this being the group sent before us, it's concerning that we've never even heard of their existence. Heading back up to the house, it's locked, but we can see through the windows, and going back around, we can get a better view of the inside. Inside the house, a fireplace, a mount, and a painting with the words Abaddon 24. We can head back to the graveyard and dig up the grave with the engraving number 24. We dig up the key that unlocks the house door. We can finally receive the axe to chop down the barrier, keeping us from the mine. Under the axe, we get some context to the admittedly oddly placed house. It was here when we arrived. I'm unsure how the fire remains lit, or where the lamp receives power, but we're not dismantling it to bring it with us. Where did the wood come from if there is no trees? Perhaps the house was simply put there as an outpost by the company, or people who sent you up there. But the fire and lamp directly contradict that, because this place is uninhabitable due to the altitude. And it's pretty out of the question to get working energy up here and get a fire that lights forever. Now, most people would have turned back by now. The strange house, digging up a grave, the actions are repulsive. So why don't we just leave? Well, back to the bridge, it's broken, and trying to jump down... Scotomaphobia is the fear of blindness, and the second layer is indicative of this. After you take the lift down into the mine, you're greeted with darkness. Cauldrons with flames illuminate the place we're in. The soundtrack is pounding and pulsating. Ahead of us is a pit, and before making our way across, we can find a note on the wall to the left. The walkway was ruined beyond repair. Trying to get over the bottomless pits was a nightmare, especially since one of our teammates couldn't walk. Regardless, we made do and got across without failing. The walkway is referring to what faces ahead of us, a broken path, which is a small parkour section, which is actually where we meet the first threat and the threat that follows us around. Our introduction to it is a note. Whispers in the dark. Something is here with us. It's afraid of light, thankfully, so we've managed to keep it at bay by sticking by the light. We haven't got a glimpse at it yet. I think that's for the better. The fires that illuminate the cave aren't just for your vision, but for your safety. If you stray too far away from the fires at any point, hands start to cover your eyes, slowly taking your vision away, creeping up on you before... If you couldn't tell by now, the death scenes are the highlight of the game, and what makes it so memorable. Specifically, the darkness death, the game both gives and takes control from the player in the most complementary ways. Typing anything on your keyboard progresses the scene, but you don't get to choose what's typed. The perfect balance of control versus inability plays perfectly into each other, and perfectly to create this sense of terror that creeps throughout this entire scene. Cool detail about the fire is that if a player stands in front of you, their shadow can block the light from reaching others. So if you play with other people, one person can hog the light, essentially cucking everyone else. This is the part of the game where it opens up, with two different areas with two different puzzles. There's a giant glowing door in front of us, and a note next to it reads, "This gate, it's humming with vibrant energy, preventing us from going forward, and why is it even here in the first place? Couldn't they have made it easier?" And on the right, there's a forest and a mine, which we'll get to later, and to the left, there's a cave with one of the best puzzles in the game. Going to the left, you'll have to complete some parkour to get to a tower where, at the top, you'll find an orb. On the way to the tower, there's one note of interest. We were exploring the area when we heard the elevator start up again. Running back, we saw someone riding it up, yelling down that he was gonna wait for us. Coward. He's gonna be waiting forever. I'll get to the notes in a second. We just have to cover enough gameplay to get to the point where the notes can make sense, okay? Yeah. However, on the parkour route, there's an alternative way where you... However, on the parkour route, there's an alternate way where you can jump up and... You're greeted by a map and a radio, and when you get close to it, it picks up.
Hello? Is anyone out there? I'm lost. I've been for a while. If you can hear me, say something. Oh my god. Contact. I've been stuck here for so long. My group got split up and it's dark. Please, you have to help me. You must have a map, right? Tell me where to go. Please. I don't know where I am, or where I'm facing. but I can't reach out in the dark. Tell you how many walls are around me, and it'll tell me where to go, okay?
This is one of my favorite puzzles because there's no definitive start to the maze, so you have to orient yourselves based on his response. One of the most memorable experiences was thinking that I had the location figured out, and then it was completely different. When he gets to the end of the cave, he lets you know. And we finally get an explanation to that note on the tower.
Hold on. I see light. Oh, lovely light. My hands. I can see my hands. Oh, they look different. No matter. I'll just continue. I'm sure it'll be fine. There's a lever here. It's stiff, but I flicked it. Is that useful to you? Oh, I think I need a breather. I'll catch up later with the others. Man, I can't believe that two left us. That coward.
Number 2, according to the radio guy and the note taker, betrayed the whole group. Now, the section after this is pretty weak. It's possible that the puzzle or thread doesn't even work, but still, it's just kind of meh. You have to avoid the water monster, which is just a little blotch in the water, and when you die, the cutscene is just a jump scare. It sucks because I really do like the death scenes in this, and it just, I don't know, it's just meh. After finishing this section, you get the holy item, the torch. With the torch, not only can you progress to a new area, but you no longer have to navigate through light. Heading across the bridge and completing a jump that took me way too long, we hop on a statue and collect another orb. During that section, there's 3 notes. In the first one, we find out what happened to the person that was deaf and how the event involving them consequently affected the group. The rushing water covered our waiting footsteps. As we came to a waterfall, I noticed a shadow in the water. We all rushed to dry land, but he couldn't hear us. No matter how much we shouted, he was dragged underwater, never to resurface. Now there are 2 shadows. We didn't trade names, no reason to. We just called each other by numbers, and after what happened, I think it was the right call. On the giant statue, we get a little bit about the note taker and how they actually got selected. When I was selected, I had to slowly walk to the admissions office from work. And every person I passed offered their condolences. I can imagine it was the same for others. Now that we have the torch, we can pass a bridge with no light on it to a small camp. But beforehand, there's a small note on the wall, which inquires about the statue we just came down from. Who are these statues of? Prominent figures in their society, or gods that they worship? Doesn't make sense. Why is it all located underground? This note is obviously hinting about some other form of life down here, and arriving in the town, the question gets answered. There's other people here. Well, people is a loose term. They aren't humans. It's the first time I met them this close. I'm trying not to ask them too many questions, but it's a bit near impossible. Regardless, they're friendly if not a bit odd. After reading the note, one tint is different from the rest. It has glowing eyes inside. Going up and talking to the thing, he asks for our help with putting together a story. Now, I'm not gonna walk through the puzzle because it's really complicated, but in a really good way. There's another puzzle in this game called Cardinal. Cardinal is a cave that's linked to a forest with inscriptions on the trees, and the inscriptions tell a story, and you go the direction that the characters do in the story. This rewards you with an orb and another note. But the interesting thing about this puzzle is that it can actually be used to figure out the story. If you combine the things that you know from the story with the information you get around the camp, the puzzle gets a lot easier to solve. After the story is retold correctly, the thing gives you an orb. Walking off to the side, we get to the final puzzle. Trial by fire. This turns your torch directly against you, and if you haven't noticed by now, there's a giant red figure in the sky, the Watcher. The thing about the Watcher is that it hates light, so having your torch out in areas where it can see causes this to happen. Trial by Fire is a dance between using your torch to keep the darkness away and mad dashing through the Watcher's sections. The tightrope is perfect because the parkour in this section forces you to move fast, so the sections where you have your torch out, you're able to plan your moves through the next part. When we finally get to the top, we get the final orb, and next to it is the note. That noise, it's gonna drive me insane. I stayed in that sight too long, my ears started bleeding. I hope it doesn't have a lasting effect. The note taker at this point is practically deaf. The noise hadn't stopped, but the note being where the orb is tells us that the group had finally been able to open that door. This is pretty much confirmed by the final notes we find after heading back. The door opens with the orb spinning overhead and a small house with a few beds greet us. The note taker comments on its out-of-placeness. A room? There's just a room here? It feels like it was just ripped out of an apartment or something, but it's full of boxes. And then finally the note taker's last note, telling us where they went. Deeper. Always deeper. The core of this impossibility, as we named it. It is what we're after. We can fix this. Pressing the button in the house, the rumbling starts to happen. Before the doors, steel with metal, and we head down. And that's where the game ends right now. The developer is currently working on the third part, Layer 3. However, that is not all to the game. There's a few bonus achievements. One has to do with the mossy house mentioned in a tower note that I left out. If you wave to the character Purity, you get the badge Distant Socializing. However, you can actually go to their house and talk to them.
Oh, another human. Hello. It's been a while since I've seen anyone. What number are we up to now? Can you turn around? Oh, that high? But that means that everyone I knew is probably gone. It's alright. It's what we expected. Still seeing you. I have a strange faith in your ability to survive. Good luck. I'm not coming with you, sadly. As lucky as I am to have this body, it is quite fragile. I'm afraid it will only be a burden.
Impurity can also be achieved by reading a note in the secret room in that water section I talked about, where you can start the Lionheart quest by picking up a pickaxe handle, and when you bring it to the temple, which is something I didn't talk about, you can break the tomb open. Also in the temple, there are 2 notes with info on a person in the wheelchair. 8 was the first one to speak up after the descent. She practically ran me over, talking about the statues over the waterfall. She kept talking about the material, the style, the general architecture, and to be honest, she was speaking so fast that it was hard to remember what she said. I'm just glad there's some cheer in our group. Her wheelchair was made by her mother. She said that. That's how she got interested in architecture. She has plans to build affordable houses around the world, but I guess it's too late for that. It would have been amazing houses. I'm sure of it. I just want to say that these 2 notes are probably my favorite in the whole game. It gives 8, a character that we have never seen, such a personification. Toad's writing in this game is amazing, and it really ties the experience together with this congruent and really rich story. The final bonus piece of content is from Layer 1. Patience. If you go to a cave under the bridge, you can find a person huddling in the very back corner.
Please, leave me be. I don't wish to be looked at with your hypercritical eyes. The pain, it echoes through my body like electricity, you know why?
This is number 2. The coward that everyone's talked about. He's huddling and hiding. Trying to go back after he asks you to leave, the game stops you. But there's a different way this sequence can go. Grabbing the axe and heading to Patience, the whole scene changes. Scotomaphobia is an amazing experience that subverted my expectations wildly. I played through it with such this spiraling addiction. I felt like the note taker needing to head deeper and deeper in a place with such hostility against everything. The ambience, the writing, the cutscenes all come together to make a game that, without using the over-the-top graphics, is unsettling and at the same time moving. I get that it's Roblox and saying that sounds hyperbolic, but I genuinely can't stress how much effort and skill is demonstrated in this game. Each area is made with genuine care, the puzzles are interesting and unique, and the story is really solid. I want to give a huge thank you to Toad. They were so nice to work with. I asked them if they wanted to plug anything, and they said the game. The game is their passion project, and they want to inspire more people to create well put together good Roblox games. So please, if you're going to do anything from this video, go check out the game. It's on Roblox and private servers are free. I specifically left out some details so that if you want to dive into more, there's things for you to look for. Thank you to Toad. Thank you to my friends for lending their voices. And thank you for watching.